All right, ladies, good morning and welcome to Second Act Women's 5 Tips to Get Media Hits with PR. My name is Guadalupe Hurt, and for those of you that don't know me, I am the co-founder of Second Act Women. But today I am coming to you as a PR expert, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself here, but we're excited to have you here. This is all about focusing on how to take your business to the next level and use PR to help you tell your brand story. So let's get started. So a little bit about me. So as I mentioned, I am co-founder of Second Act Women, but prior to that, I had a 26+ year career in public relations. That's what I studied in school, and I cut my teeth predominantly in technology PR. I'm from California, but then I migrated into starting up my own boutique firm because I wanted just to do my own thing. And so I've had Mindspeak public relations on the side, gosh, for almost 25 years, so a long time. And since then, I evolved into copywriting. I became an author on a short subject documentary on cultural identity that's currently used in different types of middle schools and high schools to teach culture and identity to high school students. And I also became an associate producer. So I've had a real diverse background, but all of these kind of areas have really helped me hone in on how to communicate with those that can help us boost our company to the next level, meaning reporters, journalists, audience, etc., and really work to craft a message that helps us articulate what's our wow, what's our news story when we are trying to get media hits for ourselves or our company. So with that said, here's what's on the agenda today. So we are going to be talking about how to give your company a boost. We're going to be talking about bragging and some of the kind of feelings that are associated with it. We're talking about the value of media hits and why you should even engage in public relations. And we're going to round it out with some 5 tips to get media interest. And of course, as you all know now, we are using a new format here at Second Act Women, where you are not just going to be listening to what we're sharing, you're actually be now participating. And so we're going to round out the session with a work at SESH on how to set up your pitch. So first, I want to talk about sticking around, because here's kind of what you're going to be looking at and you're going to be walking away with, and this is what we're going to actually use to create your pitch. Now, there are different ways to create a pitch, but we've created a framework that we have used throughout our outreach, and we'd love to share it with you as just a groundwork and a framework for you to use. So stick around until the end, because this is what we'll use, and you'll walk away with this kit today. But first, I want to get real about bragging and what it means to actually brag. For many of us, if you are kind of reminiscing about the word brag, some of us actually will associate it with a negative connotation. This idea that bragging is, audacious, that it's a negative connotation, that you shouldn't brag. And if you're from my generation, many of you obviously are, you were taught that bragging was a bad thing, that you shouldn't do it, that you should just work hard and you'll be recognized for what is to come. I'm curious to know, chat me up, how many of you actually have this association with bragging? We're taught that, hey, you shouldn't do it, you should just wait to be recognized. The reality is that, ladies, we can't afford to wait. And I think this quote from Regina perfectly sums it up for me. It's a celebration. It's not necessarily when you do it right and when you do it from the heart. Bragging is not a bad thing. It's actually stepping into and identifying the fact that you have accomplished a lot. And media look to you as an expert. And if you yourself lack that confidence, lack that ability to communicate what you've accomplished, then who's going to do it for you? So what I really wanted to kind of hone in on this particular piece was remind you that you are doing amazing things, but even amazing things will go unnoticed if you don't take the time to elevate yourself. And so with that said, when it comes to media relations, bragging like a boss with tact and with expertise and with decorum and with spirit is your golden ticket to making sure that you get the media hits that you deserve. So I'm curious if any of their chats came up or anything of that sort. Was there any kind of comments on bragging or any ideas, any comments on how you all feel about bragging and what this means to you? Is this resonating, this idea that you could own your milestones and achievements and go forth with it? I see some heads nodding. Okay. All right. Well, let's keep on moving then. Oh, here's a couple chats. Let's see. Awesome. So I cringe a little. You know what? And rightfully so. I hear you, Michelle. The idea that we've been taught, like I said, generationally, don't do it. You know, keep your head down, don't cause the ripples, and just keep on track. That's a legit fear. But again, it's how you communicate it and how it lands that really makes a difference. So it's a matter of kind of bringing it from the heart and making sure that when you do brag, it's from a place of, hey, I want to share my accomplishments. I feel confident, I'm proud of my accomplishments. It's not a sense of I'm better than you mentality. And I love that. Yes, you can own your achievements. Awesome, Tawani. Is it Tawani? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Awesome. Okay, perfect. And yeah, you know what? I think it's all, so Julie just said it. Thanks for giving us the permission. Absolutely. Again, it's just a mental reset on bragging. This idea that you yourself are your own best advocate and you should be your own best cheerleader and nothing should stand in your way. So with that said, I'm so glad that many of you are going to step into this with me because I think that is an important mental reset that we need to go through every time that we take a look at what we've accomplished and how we want to communicate it forward. So, all right, ladies, with that said, let's talk about the value of media hits. So I'm curious, chat me up here too. How many of you currently have your own business or are looking to start up and are maybe looking to reach out to media, or you've already reached out to media? I'm kind of curious to kind of gauge, see where you guys are at in your own process. But while you guys are hitting me up here on the chat, here's just a highlight of why you want to engage in public relations. It is all about building your brand one story at a time. For those of you that have already engaged in PR, the idea is that PR is really a third-party endorsement. It's the idea that you have put a story forth that a reporter deemed interesting and relevant to their audience, and they decided to move forward it. So when you actually go out and are able to cite this article, it really gives you strong credibility, unlike advertising, for example, where you are paid placement. So here's just a list of some of the many achievements and many benefits, really, of being proactive with your media outreach. So ready to start, some of us are saying, have my own business, but now have never thought of reaching out to media. Okay, I wonder why. Why is that? Why have you never thought of reaching out to media? Media is a really great conduit to help with lead generation, to drive views to your website. You reach new audiences literally for free. From the idea that depending on who you're reaching out on the media reporter side, they could be talking to a whole slew of potential targets or clients that you otherwise would not have connected had you just gone the traditional route of your own outreach and marketing efforts. And so, okay, so we've got several different entrepreneurs here listed that have been using Haro. Awesome, Angie, we're gonna be talking about Haro as a resource in a little bit. I'm an online yoga studio. Okay, perfect. But this idea that with, Tawani, to your comment about a yoga sensei, and the idea being that, you know what, with COVID, there was a lot of us that were looking for things to do, creative ways to stay fit during the pandemic. That could have been a really great news hook, right? So it's all about just breaking down. Sometimes we're too close to our own topic that we get in our way of seeing the potential. And so really what we're gonna be talking today is how to reveal that potential and start to kind of engage with media. So this is just a snapshot of where we've been with Second Act Women. And this is just to give you proof that we currently have zero budget for advertising, and really legit is just Barb and myself out there hitting the pavement. Yeah, high five, wife. We're out there, the ones who are hitting the pavement, trying to get noise created around what we are doing. And we have been very fortunate that we've been able to leverage some of the relationships that we've had, because we've both come from a PR and marketing background. But in addition to, we've been able to develop some news hooks. We've been able to piggyback on certain stories, and we'll talk about some of those opportunities here in a little bit. But this here, ladies, is just a snapshot, a proof, whether it's from speaking engagements to partnerships to media. You too can have a page like this if you decide to step in and start to engage in public relations. And let me tell you that this is definitely a braggy worth slide, especially when it comes to trying to get investment, when it comes to partnerships and collaborations. This is a tool, this is an asset. And so if you have a blank page right now, your goal for 2021 and on should be to start to get icons and start to get logos on there so that you can show how you are creating impact in the communities that you serve. All right, so let's jump into the 5 steps and what we are going to be talking about. So tip number 1 is laying the groundwork. So as you know, anything worth pursuing takes effort up front. It's not like all of a sudden you're going to jump on an email and be like, hey, I've got this awesome story for you. There is some due diligence that comes into play. So the first one is a story angle brain dump. And what I mean by that is every story that you have should be developed into and sliced up into multiple segments, meaning it's not just relevant for one group of reporters. You can look at, for example, here's an example that I had. Opening a new dog shelter, for example. So from a lifestyle pitch, you could say, hey, maybe a pitch is about best breeds of dogs to find love. If you want to pitch a health reporter, maybe it's owning a dog reduces stress. From a business standpoint, business reporters, owners partner up with local businesses to promote walking breaks for local employees. From a fashion standpoint, maybe you want to hit some fashion media. Maybe the pitch there is best looks for you and your pup this summer. So I basically took one idea of opening up a dog, business and sliced it up in different ways. The idea being that the more I can put out there, the more ideas I can see with different types of reporters, the higher opportunity I will get to get a return on investment, meaning greater articles, diverse audience reach, and hopefully new relationships and rapport with the media. Target specific writers, not publications. So we were chatting on the Morning Cup today that many of us oftentimes will say, oh my gosh, I love Entrepreneur Magazine, or I love Forbes Magazine, or whatever, right? And I want to be on Forbes. Well, that's great. And I love the vision, and you should have that, but you got to break it down. Publications don't write the articles, reporters do. So make sure that you do your due diligence and find out who's writing, who's covering your topic. That's an easy find on mastheads, on their websites. You could go on to social media and see who's covering this. The idea being that your goal is to not necessarily just throw out pitches, but to be strategic in how you write them up and who you hit. And so another kind of tip there is to also build rapport with media. There was an interesting stat here that kind of came out that said 64% of writers think that it's important to establish a personal connection, 64%. And the majority right now, just like you, are on social. So whether that's Twitter, some prefer LinkedIn, but the idea being is that you need to track and show interest in what they are doing so that hopefully at one point in time when you get a feel for their style too, of how they write things, how they set it up, it gives you insight on how to write your own pitch so that you know that you're writing along the same lines of how they usually digest and write up their own stories. And the last step here is to be media ready. The idea being that media will, once you send out a pitch, you should be ready to respond on a drop of a dime. Media are working typically on tight deadlines. And if you don't have all your assets, if they're asking for an interview or a customer to cite in their article and you don't have a customer lined up and you got to track one down and then coordinate, you may miss out on the opportunity. So we are here at the end of this segment. We're going to have a media hit list of things that you should have ready available for media once you start your outreach. But definitely take the time to get all your ducks in a row so that when the hits come knocking, you're ready to receive and capitalize. So tip number 2. And this is the media kit. So now we're talking about, okay, what are the underpinnings? What can I have readily available that will help tell my story when I send out these pitches? Now, media kits come in all different shapes and sizes. Depending on your company, you may have other assets in here, but as a basis, here's kind of, at least, if anything, the ground form for it, and at least a jumping off point on what to consider to include in there. So we divided it here from 3 perspectives: the content, the package, and the experience. So the contents really is all about what's inside your kit. And so typically it'll be brand assets. It is imperative, ladies, especially in a highly visible media world today that we live in, to have readily available, we're talking photos, not just business photos like stage photos, but like lifestyle photos if you're a lifestyle brand as well too. Gifts, for social media use. Maybe it's also having, snippets of small videos ready to go B-roll that they can just easily, download and incorporate into maybe a broadcast story, for example, or even social media articles now include a myriad of different types of videos. So the idea being that you want to have everything ready to go. Press releases as relevant. There's not all press releases need to be included in your news release, but definitely the ones with more significance or the ones that perhaps maybe got you greater coverage in media hits before, definitely include those. Company documents, so we're talking bios for sure, or any type of fact sheet that may have more details about your company that the reporter could easily peruse and not necessarily have to come to you for every question that they have. Testimonials, industry insights, and obviously contact details are important to let them know how they can get in touch with you. The media kit becomes an extension of your brand. So the package in the middle there is super important, making sure that it looks and it basically visually already identifies with your brand is imperative. So we're talking brand colors and fonts, imagery, copy and tone and layout. All of that is very important to have on point alongside what your current look and feel is. And there's a link here that I'll have Barb drop into the chat that you can take advantage of. For those that maybe have joined us for our Canva classes, Canva, this is designed on Canva 100%, and we are big fans. And they offer a myriad of different types of templates that you can easily use to craft, whether you're a blogger or a solopreneur or whatever it might be. They have really good kind of jumping off points for you to take advantage of. And with this link, it is an affiliate link for Second Act Women, but you can have 30 days of their pro version free. So maybe you could get your media kit done and you don't even have to pay for the Canva money. So which would be a win-win. And then lastly, the number 3 kind of component of this is taking into consideration the experience. So gone are the days when we used to print in mounds these hard press kits. Like literally we were sitting there filing and organizing and mailing them out, like shuffling them seriously to the post office. That's not happening anymore. Now there's a whole bunch of different ways that media prefer to get their kits. And while our preference is the digital media kit, which is the downloadable complete kit that's available, usually typically on a press room on your website, and it's usually broken out by, assets or brands or in the stories and pictures, etc. You can organize it however you want. There are a couple of other ways here that I have seen people communicate and share content. So whether it's a downloadable PDF, maybe it's a slide deck like this with embedded links in it, a content folder. So for example, like Dropbox, you could share a link if there's really kind of heavy types of storage heavy content in there. That's another really great tip. But the idea being is make it easy. Make it easy, accessible, make sure all your links are working, make sure that everything is tagged correctly, make sure that you've included in there who these are courtesy of. If there's a photographer that you need to cite or a video company that needs to be included, make sure all of that credit information is in your media kit so that again, you are ready to go. Okay. So tip number 3. Now this is where it starts getting fun because now you start to kind of figure out how can I break down my big idea, right? So a lot of us think that we've got genius ideas, and I'm not going to say that it's not, but it's a matter of now distilling how is it relevant to the reporter that I'm trying to pitch and ultimately to the readers that buy that publication. So here's a couple of tips on that, things that you could do to be both proactive as well as reactive. So newsjacking. If you haven't heard this term, it's actually a pretty kind of effective and timely way to stay on top of a reporter's radar. So it's the idea that we all read articles during the course of our week, and whether it is online or in print, whatever it might be, but the idea being that there's a story that runs that's relevant to what you're doing in some form or fashion, and you use that story as a jumping off platform to bring attention to your story. So maybe it's a story like what we just kind of pitched on Fox was the pandemic invited a lot of women or inspired a lot of women to go gray. And we kind of coined it. Barb had the genius idea of pitching that to some of her buddies here at Fox 31, and we're now pitching Fox LA as well too. But the idea being is the silver lining of the pandemic is that women are owning their silver hair and are now not turning back. So we took advantage of a timely situation, of something that's really happening, and then figured out how we could incorporate what we were wanting to convey, which was this idea that women are now owning their grays, and then pitch it out to media. So that's always a really neat way to take advantage of timely communications. The other three, survey and instructional, I'll come back to personal, but survey and instructional are really kind of in-house generated information. So surveys, if you've got a membership or you've got an audience that you are regularly in communication with, that maybe could offer up insightful information into current topics. So maybe it's about, you've got a product on a Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is coming up, for example, and you've got an audience of women and you are wanting to survey them on the worst Valentine's Day gifts, for example, let's just say, right? And how to give advice. You're pitching men's publications, advice on what to buy your woman that will not revolt her, or something like that, right? But the idea being is that you could easily go into your audience and say, hey ladies, we're pitching this media. Here's 5 questions that we would love your feedback on. Typically, media will want at least anywhere between above 100 responses on something to actually kind of create some type of validation for it. But if you can get some responses on maybe 5 easy questions, you could easily take that and say, hey, we surveyed more than 100 women, and here's a response of how to help men earn brownie points this Valentine's Day, or something like that, right? But it's the idea of getting creative and using your audience or your following or your email newsletter group to push your own story forward. Then personal, obviously everybody, at the end of the day, yes, we shop businesses, but we also want the personal narratives behind it. So who's working there? What are the ideas? Why are they starting these businesses? What's interesting? Like our story, for example, has been very interesting to a lot of media because of the fact that we're serving a very niche audience. We are the target market, and to this date, this demo has been overlooked. So the personal narrative of our own journey, kind of going through creating Second Act Women, the ups, the downs, etc., is an interesting story to hear and to tell, and a relatable story in the end that readers can say, oh, I can picture myself in these ladies' shoes. So you want to think about yourself that way too. We always talk about not just the company as a brand, but the person as a brand too. So what's your narrative? What's your story? How can you create connection and relation so that media are interested in you as the person as well? And instructionals are always fine. This could take the form of contributed content. It could also take the form of just like sharing insights. So it's the, how to, for example, or the, why you should type of article setups. And so this could be a really fun way, especially again, if you're playing off of a survey, to take content, original content that you're creating, and share it with media to hopefully spike their interest. I've listed here a couple of different kind of systems and organizations that can support you in your reactive outreach. Google Alerts, so staying on top of news trends is always a really cool way. So maybe if you follow sports medicine, for example, making sure that you're tracking sports and athlete and medicine in regards to sports and getting those alerts directly delivered to your email are important. Haro, Angie, you were talking about participating in Haro, is another great source, so that this is basically a compilation of media that contribute to this one. It's kind of like a long email that comes to your email every morning and evening, and it's chock full of, hey, I'm working on this story, I'm looking for experts. Put yourself out there. Definitely subscribe to that. These are all free. Journal request and quote, journal request is a highlight of Twitter feeds from media that are, again, looking for sources as well too. And quoted is a combination of just different, it's a connecting platform for experts and journalists that are looking for sources. But the idea being is that you don't always have to have the story angle to go out to media. You can be responsive in your outreach and still create great ink for your company. So it's a matter of just putting in the time, being diligent, and putting the systems in place to keep you connected and on top of what the media are interested in and writing about. Okay, so just like anything else, there are some do's and some don'ts to media relations. And literally, ladies, the don'ts on this one could really burn some serious bridges. So I would definitely advise that you take these to heart and incorporate these for to make sure that you just continue to put your best foot forward. But let's focus on the do's. So again, this is all about showing your expertise. So it's referencing reports or speaking opportunities that you've been at. If you've presented at South by Southwest on this topic, for example, or you've advised Fortune 500 companies on this topic, put that on your pitch. Let people know that this is not just you touting your own horn, but that you've actually been out there sharing this message with other people. Address reporter by name. The worst thing that you could do, and it's again right next to it on the don't, is copy and paste a pitch. So be cognizant to make sure to help this reporter know that this is not just a cookie cutter pitch. I love to try to at least incorporate their name at least twice in the beginning and somewhere in the middle so that they know that this is legit a pitch that we wrote for them. Mention recent articles as far as articles that are relevant that they have written. So for example, maybe it's opening up and saying, hey, I saw that you wrote about this cool topic. Here's how I can support it. Did you think about this angle? And I could support you in providing the right experts, or I'm an expert, whatever it might be. But mention recent articles at the top and saying, really enjoyed this, so that they know that you're reading their content as well. Tailor to the reporter's interest, convey why you're an expert, and offer exclusive content, all relevant information on how you can build rapport with these reporters. But again, it takes you taking the time to understand what's of interest to them and then serving it up. It really just comes down to that. Some of the don'ts, I'll be the copy and paste. Don't mention other outlets. Don't mention other coverage that you've received. That's the worst thing that you could do, because they don't want to know that their competitors already got the jump on them. Don't think that everything is newsworthy. And that our pitch structure that we're going to walk you through here in a little bit will help you kind of distill that. And the last thing to know is that on average, media get anywhere about 100 or so pitches a week. So know that you don't need to write a thesis to grab their attention. It's really short and sweet, to the point, but convincing. And so make sure that you stay away from the super 5-paragraph, 6-paragraph pitch, because that will fast forward you to the delete button in essence. And then lastly, don't follow up more than 3 times. That includes the actual pitch that you send out. If they didn't respond, they're not interested. So don't burn your bridge by over following up with them in essence. All right, and so we are on to our last step here, or last tip, shall I say. And this is really the pitch setup, the idea that these are just parts of what you can incorporate into your pitch to help you at least get the flow for it. Make sure that you have all the right components that media typically look for, in addition to everything else that we've talked about. So all of the brand, all the media kit, etc. But now it's what's going to end up in their actual email box to get you noticed. So with that said, we're going to dive into the work at SESH. I wanted just to check in, see if there were any questions so far on what we've presented before we dive into the actual working part of this workshop. Any questions I can answer? All right, well, let's keep moving on then, shall we? All right, so for the work at session, here is what we have created. We have a pitch worksheet set up that's going to build on those 5 components that we just showed you. It's going to also have a media kit printable checklist. This will be something that you'll be able to take with you and be able to reference as you're revising, adding to, and changing out your press kit. And then we're going to have a challenge here at the end. We're going to actually challenge you to send out 1 pitch. And hopefully, would love to track it so that we can reward you if you get picked up for that pitch. So before we dive into that, I wanted just to highlight real quick that these pitches are brought to you by Second Act Women. If you are currently not an insider, these workshops are completely included in your membership, and we would love to have you. Our insider member currently is hovering almost at 170 members nationwide. I was gonna say global, but not quite yet. We have a few that are coming on from out of the country. But the idea being that if you are looking for a more intimate group to support you in your business, in your career, or in your life development, we wanna be that support system for you. Many of the women on this in this workshop here today are part of our insiders. And like I said, you get these workshops for free, but in addition to that, a whole bunch of other perks. And I just want to take a minute to highlight some of those perks for you. So for example, public relations media source. talking about PR. As an insider, you will always get first dibs to be our go-to person if media are asking for women to speak to in our community, whether it's businesses or women to comment on certain articles that they may be working on, whatever it is, insiders will always get first dibs. You have access to list your company on a business listing where we are continuously promoting to our community and to the greater community at large to shop and support women-owned 40 and 50 businesses. You will also have the opportunity to promote your organization through our various channels, whether it's in our newsletters or it's in our Facebook group. But the idea is that if you are targeting the women 40 and 50 plus, we invite you to step in and join us in the Insiders. It's only $99 right now for the year. You can head on over to secondactwomen.com/insider perks to get a full highlight of all the amazing things that we are adding into it. Some of the new things that we're adding in is like our boot camp that we're hosting tomorrow. If you're a small business and are looking to level up your business goal setting, join us. It's a 7-step program that will walk you through how to take your company to the next level, everything from setting business goals to vision boarding. And in addition to that, we'll have accountability groups coming this summer. We're going to have a more robust marketplace for you to advertise and show up and share your talents with our communities and so much more. So if you are not an insider, we'd love to encourage you to join us. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those after the session. But with that said, all right, so let's move into the actual worksheets. And then, oh, actually, let's go back here. I meant to just move forward. There we go. Okay, so hey Barb, can you drop in the link for the actual worksheet into the chat so that everybody can download it? Hopefully she heard me. Hey Barb. All right, so let me just grab it here real quick. She may have stepped out, so just give me a minute. I'm gonna just get the link real quick for you ladies and I will drop it in. Because what I'd love to do is have you be able to use it while, okay, so here.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Yeah, I was giving you a thumbs up.
Oh, I'm sorry, honey.
I just dropped it in.
Oh, fantastic, thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, ladies, so you can click on that link to access your media pitch and kit workbook. And we have created so that it is completely 100% editable in the sections where we are asking for you to participate and start to fill out. So go ahead and take a minute to click on that and access it.
And give us a, use the reaction key or a thumbs up that you got it.
Perfect, yes, because I'd love to get that. And then, hey Barb, I can't do the timer on this one no more, huh?
Not when you go outside of Canva.
Got it, okay.
So if you go back to the works, it's back to your Canva, and from there, you can do it.
Okay, but then I'm not able to show the actual workbook itself because this is just one page, yeah. Okay. Well, all right, so are you, did all the ladies get their, you guys got your workbook and we're all good to go? Awesome, okay, so let's just dive in. So I'm gonna actually, this is the first page, so we can just start here and then we'll exit out. So as I was mentioning earlier, the goal of writing a pitch is really to get creative with what you are, what you're thinking is newsworthy, to be honest. And as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily always have to be targeted to just one media outlet. It can be targeted to many. So the idea being is that maybe perhaps right now you were asked to bring, what was it? Bring a list of the top 3 media targets you'd like to pitch and their editorial focus. If you didn't bring them, that's okay. But perhaps maybe you have an idea of, hey, you know what, this might be kind of cool, that I'd love to see if I could get some media interest around. So I would invite you to, in the brain dump here, to write down your idea and then try to identify, okay, so could I pitch a health reporter? Could I pitch a business reporter? Maybe perhaps a women's book, maybe national, just like broadcast media. And what you're going to want to do here is answer the questions here that are outlined. So what media segments am I trying to target? and what's the news hook for each. Now remember, not every pitch is going to be just a cut and paste for all media targets. You need to be aware of what they are interested in. So from the health reporter, obviously has to be health related, has to help, whether it's curb, obesity, or it's help advance, whatever it might be, having them feel better. The idea being is that you need to tailor your pitch accordingly. And so I want you to just take 5 minutes, write your top idea down, and then talk about what's my news hook. And then perhaps maybe if you did do the homework and you have your media, look at the media examples that you have there and say, okay, so how are they writing this? What are they citing in their article? What could I offer them that perhaps maybe they haven't thought about? And see how you can come up with your own, at least brain dump of what your media pitch could look like if pitched out to different segments. Does that all make sense, ladies? And you guys can take yourself off mute and ask any questions here to kind of clarify. Does that make sense though?
And here's an idea. I just put in here, you can also go to Google and put in a keyword for your business and see what topics come up.
Perfect.
Or that trending topic. And that's a great idea.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to give you ladies 5 minutes just to jot some stuff down.
Ladies, as this is closing out, if you go to Google and, for instance, you type in women over 40, immediately what drops down are all the latest topics that people are Googling. So I typed in women over 40, it says women over 40 haircuts, women over 40 fashion, all those things. Just by typing in women over 40, all those trending topics will actually populate. And that's an idea of how you can find and jump on that news or that trending topic for today. Did that help?
Awesome. I'd love to see all these ladies writing down stuff. That's so cool. Perfect. All right. Well, we are going to close up this segment and remind, like, just a friendly reminder, ladies, like this isn't something that is going to be all just one and done. The idea being is that you want to at least brainstorm openly. Don't censor your thoughts. Just write down, hey, if I was to, here's my big idea. If I wanted to pitch this type of media group or type of media reporter, what would be of interest to them? Knowing that, you know, maybe again, you're trying to reach the health reporter, for example. So my pitch has to be, you know, focus on health. It has to focus on this and that. How do I contribute to it? And the idea being is that when you brain dump, you're trying to distill and create those connection points for the media, because at the end of the day, it's creating relevance for them and their audience. And that's the whole point of your brain dump. So if you didn't get quite through this exercise, take it again and print this out again or whatever it might be, and try it again. And then maybe this time create one brain dump for your health reporter, maybe a brain dump for your business reporter, and a brain dump for whatever other segments that you'll want to be targeting. But the idea being is flesh your idea out, because then that will help you then create the framework for how to sell what you are wanting to pitch media on.
Let's find out maybe some of the stories, some of the ideas.
I was just going to say, I was going to invite people to get off their, or to turn off their mute button and see if anyone had anything that they wanted to share with us. Any takers?
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Kathy.
My question is how do you, I mean, graying hair during a pandemic can be a very sexy topic. I've seen the pictures and, things like that. But, when you're pitching something in really tough times anyway, with what we've all been through with respect to the virus and the pandemic and all the political upheaval and things like that. And the topic is one more thing to worry about, right? The timing seems to be relevant, or maybe it's not. There's never going to be a good time, so just do it, right? Can you speak to your experience about that when the topic is not sexy and it's not comical, but it's needed?
So give me an example of what that topic might be, Kathy.
Well, my topic is related to the dangerous and devastating impacts of meth toxins. And I've gotten quite a bit of good traction over the last several months now, as it launched from a personal story of mine. And but I'm not quite with a defined media package yet. I'm getting traction. So
yeah. So a couple of things that you could take a look at is obviously research meth trends. See if there's been any bus, are they identifying neighborhoods where this is becoming an issue, a prevalent issue?
I'm already there as far as the trends. The statistics are not positive. They're only going up, and the impacts are only being identified that there's no socioeconomic or geographical boundaries. So
Okay,
Pretty
so
much
maybe,
there.
so then in this case, it is perhaps maybe then doing those instructional pieces that we were talking a little bit about earlier. So perhaps maybe it's saying, hey, I'm an expert in this. Here's kind of my background. Here's what I'm finding. So maybe you're sharing knowledge of what you're doing through your own research with media about the realities of meth and the effects or the lingering effects. Did it spike during COVID, for example? Did we see, more deaths? How did it become, how did it come to the forefront? I think in addition to that too, you could easily do a survey perhaps of people in your community that are contributing about what are some of the rising concerns around meth in neighborhoods or something of that sort, right? But again, identifying and creating your own news hooks based using your expertise, but then also using the community that you currently have access to could really make for some timely news for like a CNN or a MSNBC. And then again, gives you that angle for the pitch for the health reporter, but then maybe also does it, for the local reporter in some of these perhaps higher meth dense geographies or cities. Maybe one of them, for example, is Washington, just to throw it out there. But you could hit up like the local reporters in Washington and say, hey, do you guys know that there's a rising meth crime or rate or whatever it might be in your neighborhood? This is why it's important to you. So you could take a real proximity approach to your pitch too, and identifying trends or reporters that might be of interest to in what you've got to share. Does that make sense?
Okay. Well, that was a lot. I think I've drilled it down to a certain amount. I mean, we're already hosting classes on it with experts and reaching out to trusted advisors. But I mean, there'll be a lot more traction if I can just pitch this to local media. I mean, behind alcoholism, meth addiction is the #2 addiction in our region, and what people seek addiction help for. So, there's plenty of ways to throw it out there. I have a lot of work to do to make it, package it pretty and perfect.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk to you afterwards too, to kind of maybe distill even some additional ideas. But I think you've got a good topic that could definitely be sliced in a couple of different ways. So I would add some Google alerts to your email daily review about if there's any kind of news hooks that are kind of come up or stories written on meth.
All right,
So,
thank you.
Of course. Okay, so then I'm going to exit out of here and then go into the actual pitch book itself. Okay, so then the second page, ladies, that you should receive in your book is all about the email subject line. And so this is really an opportunity for you to grab the attention of the reporter. An interesting statistic that we found is that 85% of journalists will determine if they even open your email based on the actual subject line. So it is really important to consider some of the things that I've highlighted here, and this is just from some research that we gathered about the length. What is the proper length? So it's 49 characters or less. There's also some examples here of what to include. So whether you write it in a listicle format, you create a sense of urgency. A lot of reporters also said that they love to hear about statistics. And so this idea that if you're pitching a survey, maybe you could say, hey, 35% of women, or in this case, 85% of kids want this toy for their birthday. The idea being that you're really trying to pique their interest enough. Your subject line should be a direct reflection of what's in your pitch itself. Don't be misleading in what you put in your pitch and your email subject line to be kitschy or grab their attention, and then what the content is completely different or does not support your email subject line. That's also been noted as something that reporters do not appreciate and will definitely get you blacklisted. So we've got a couple of minutes. Let's keep moving here just to kind of get this. And this is something that you can come back to and take a look at and write your subject line and work on that as well too. In our second part, it is the lead. And this is where we talk about really the why. Why should I care about what you are pitching? How is this relevant to my readers? And why should I talk to you about it? So this is an opportunity to really kind of use that newsjacking system that we were talking about. So whether it's tying it to new current events, perhaps maybe it's offering up original content, tying it to something relevant that they recently wrote about. I've used that one quite a bit to say, hey, I really liked your article on X, or you covered so-and-so. Did you know that we actually are in that same space and would be happy to offer more information on it? So this is an opportunity to really succinctly tell them why they should be interested in what you're doing. This typically tends to be about 2 to 4 sentences in length. Again, remember, we're not trying to write a thesis. We're just simply trying to pique their interest, and then all of the supporting materials that they will need to further develop their story is going to be in your media kit, or they can reach out and get from you directly. So this is something here really fun that you can work on. And I think this is the more important part of kind of what you're going. And so I'm curious, by just a raise of hands, I want to make sure that if we, how many of you got a chance to kind of do the brain dump and feel like this would be a good exercise to partake in? Or how many of you feel like this is, you guys got it? Awesome. Okay, let's dive in then. I'm going to give you, let's spend maybe 3 minutes. Barb, you think 3 minutes or so to just kind of hash this out? And I'm going to set a timer since I can't put that beautiful little timer on here anymore. Oh, but actually, no, I can't put, I guess I can go back here. All right, let's do 3 minutes. All right, ladies. Ooh. All right. Okay. So, oh, that's weird. Is that me? Ah, I have no idea what's happening. Okay, is that better now? How bizarre. That was like I was like possessed or something there for a minute. It sounded like
The devil just entered the room.
I know. I was like, I didn't push anything. I don't know where that's coming from. Okay, ladies, any brave souls that would love to share their sample lead with us? Oh, awesome, Tawny. Oh, unmute, hun. There you go. My girl, I see the lips going, but I don't hear you.
You have to juggle around. Okay, here it goes. COVID has led to so many heartbreaks, from couples splitting up, some couples being apart due to travel restrictions and social distancing, to the passing away of loved ones. Yoga is one tool to help people recover and move forward in their lives after heartbreak. And I thought you'd be interested to know how yoga can help.
Ooh, okay. I love the idea of having it be like a something that brings couples together, especially considering it's like around the Valentine's Love Month. What would be interesting included there too, Tawani, is are there statistics that show how many people currently in yoga are couples? Like, is there a rise in couples that are taking yoga, for example, that would support this claim of, you know, more people are coming together and they're staying together, and maybe even having a few couples that talk about this together time. What does this together time on the mat mean to them? Those could be some supporting points in kind of developing your lead and your pitch to whoever you might be.
Is there something that I said that made you imply that it was for couples to do yoga? It's for someone to recover from the heartbreak. So they could be
to recover from the heartbreak. Oh, yes. I didn't hear that part. I thought it was about couples getting together to do yoga in essence.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Should I read it again?
Yeah. What? Oh, go ahead, Barb.
That just means you have two stories.
Yeah.
Got out into two story ideas. So you could pitch a reporter on one side of that, on the breakup side, and then you could pitch the couple side, because we know goat yoga has been really big.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you have two story ideas instead now.
Right.
What do you think, Lupe?
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think that's the whole purpose of like this type of exercise, is to kind of start to break it down and say, hey, what, you know, so if mine is about relationships, it's tying relationships with yoga. What are the different types of relationships? You know, are there relationships now that you're seeing an increase in moms doing it with their kids, for example, or the heartbreak? It's kind of a way to move the body that alleviates some of the stress that's built up after a harsh breakup or whatever it might be, right? Or it's this couple's pitch. So it's this idea of kind of just taking it and then looking at it 360 to kind of break it down. But I love the idea of kind of going through with the heartbreak, and especially if you timed it around now, where, you know, it's many men and women, you know, are single during during Valentine's. You know, that could be a really timely pitch for like a really kind of cool lifestyle magazine that maybe is looking for some social media content or article pitches. And then again, to have those people be available for resources just takes your delivery and your opportunity to that next level. So that's awesome. I would be curious to guess that one and see what you could get from it. Anyone else want to share one more? Okay, everyone's being shy.
I say one more. Can I add a little bit more to it?
Yeah.
One of the things that Lupe and I did is we created a national days.
Oh, that's right.
National days. And so you can actually Google, according to your industry, what are some of the national days that are coming up this year that our insiders get this. And so there may be something that you can newsjack using something that is, you know, okay, the 17th, Acts of Kindness Day. And actually next week is all of Random Acts of Kindness Week. So is there something that Michelle can write up that would be an act of kindness to your heart, an action because of the foods that you're helping people eat better? You know, is there something that you can attribute to a national, and there is, you could get this information. This is according to our target demo, are some of the things that we came up with, but I would Google national holidays. And guys, don't forget, and she may have mentioned bloggers. They are journalists. They are just as important as a Dan Daru or an Ann Trujillo in this market. So look and keep in mind the national bloggers that have an influence of over 20,000 people or 5,000 people, because they, you know, they are heavily engaging with that 5,000 people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so moving along. So the next one is your value prop. And I'm going to let you ladies work on this one on your own time. But this is the idea of, okay, so I've set up my pitch. Now, Tawani, what are you bringing to the table? And maybe this could be talking about your yoga expertise. This could be talking about your survey that you're bringing to the table. It could be talking about your business in general. this is where your original content, you provide the value of what you are offering up. And this is a really kind of a cool place. Again, if you've been at conferences or you're a known expert in this space, this is the place to do that bragging that we talked about and making sure that you sell yourself as the expert that they want to talk to. And then 4 and 5 is basically a summary, a hit list of kind of rounding it out, but you always want to be specific about what you want. Now, granted, we all want media hits, but if there's a particular section that you're looking at, so maybe it's the front of the book, maybe it's, you know, the inside perspective of their, you know, publication or whatever it might be specific. Say, hey, I think this would be a really cool article for your blank, blank, blank section. If you're looking for a product review or you're looking for an interview or whatever it might be, say, hey, I'd love to offer up, let me know if you'd be interested in speaking to my CEO, for example. Assume that they are not mind readers and that they are reading through this like with just at a glance. They're not even perhaps maybe looking at it with a fine tooth comb. So be as specific as possible. Help them draw the conclusion of what you want out of this communication. And that leads us to the last piece here, where it's all about just wrapping it up and making sure that if you're going to be highlighting the fact that you're offering an exclusive, do so at the end, but make sure not to pitch it out until they respond with one way or the other. But this is where you kind of just tie everything up with the bow and say, thanks for your time. You include a link to your media kit, should you have one. And so typically that's just a real brief kind of 1 sentence or so summary. Any questions on this part, ladies? Okay, so just to kind of wrap it up here, as we mentioned, in this kit too, you will have a media kit checklist. We talked about what's the importance of having one, why you should have one, and what should be in it. But here's just a quick editable where you can actually legit just click on these little boxes to make sure that you have the assets that we've recommended in here. And again, you might have a very unique company that requires some additional information. So just be sure to include that in here. But we cover everything from including your social media stats to the photo library to the experience, and then obviously rounding it out with your brand. So feel free to use this in your efforts moving forward. I'm grateful, and we're on behalf of Barb and I, we thank you for making the time to join us today. I'd love to, if you guys are interested, just to share maybe perhaps whoever's wanting to, what did you guys learn today? Or what, what are you gonna walk away with? Because the challenge at the end of this session is go out and pitch at least one reporter on something cool that you are doing within your company. So what did you learn to get you from where you are right now to pitching that reporter?
Each one of you has to share something. We're
okay, so Barb's going to put your feet to the fire on this one.
Well, I'm happy to start. Just the brain dump itself, that was huge. Thank you. Because I came into this workshop just out of curiosity. And now I've got like 5 or 6 ideas that I can think about. So
that's so cool.
And stay until the end. By the way, we're going to give away a boot camp.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm here. I'm in.
All right, Angie.
Let's see. So I think the thing for me is that I'm creating all of this content for myself. Well, not for myself, obviously, but within my business, and I'm not doing a good job. So I'm obviously spreading the word to the people that are already following me or already a part of my community, but I'm not doing a good job of taking that content and sharing it with, or like getting other people to share it for me. And so I think that's been the biggest insight for me, is that it is really like I'm creating it for a reason. Like it is useful and helpful, and it has a voice beyond me, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it can be multi-purpose, right? You can take that and even attract more customers, more followers into your community if you share it outside of the walls of currently those that are already part of your organization. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Ms. Danielle.
With what Angie just said, we do that, and I just posted in the chat, we use what you're saying within our community about your lives and what's going on. Oftentimes we're using that too, and the surveys that we do to pitch the media as well. So yes, use that community, Angie.
Absolutely. All right, Danielle, you're up, girl.
I think for me, so I have Google Alerts set up for my keywords, and there's been a lot happening right now. One of my big ones is around micro habits, and Ariana Huffington has a book coming out on it. And so there's a lot coming out, and now to understand that I can actually go approach those journalists, because right now I was looking and go, oh, that should have been me. And now to be able to the idea of newsjacking, so I'm really taking away. And then question, you had mentioned really briefly in the very beginning, something about masthead.
Yeah.
What is that?
So when you go into like a publication, a newspaper, anything that's printed, even online though, in their media kits, it's basically the front page of the book or the website in the About Us typically section, or usually sometimes also in the advertising section it can be found. And it lists who writes what.
Oh.
And so, and usually it might have their email, it might not, but at least it'll give you, hey, an idea of this is a general assignment editor, this is a technology reporter, this is a health writer. And then you're able to then connect with them on LinkedIn or on their socials and start to follow them to start to make those connections and hopefully then get on their radar and pitch them.
Yeah, wonderful. That's definitely something I'll be doing. So thank you.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that there's things that you could jump on right now from a newsjacking standpoint. That's cool. Okay, Audrey. I'm going on the participant list here. Is there Audrey or she? Nope, maybe she's, okay. How about Deborah?
There you go. Unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, girl.
Hey, listen, this was great. I got so much good information. I got a couple of pitch ideas for the coming months, but I think the thing that helped me the most is just the step-by-step sequential process, because now I know I can follow that process for whatever topic I want to pitch. So I really got a lot of good help. Thank you. Good job.
Of course, of course. And no, this is just the basic framework. Once you start interacting with media, you'll get a sense for like, if they want particular or their data presented in a certain way, or if they continuously ask for a certain asset, you'll know next time when you email them, include that asset. And so it's kind of just at least a jumping off point to get you in communication with media. So I'm glad you're here and you.
Great.
That's awesome.
Great.
Awesome. All right, Miss Joanne.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hon.
Yeah. What didn't I learn? I mean, seriously, there's just so much information, and I'm in the middle of rebranding my company, so I have a ton of work to do. But one thing that really stuck out for me was targeting specific writers, not publications. So that really resonated with me, because I've been already looking up some publications on how to pitch ideas to publications. I never really thought of, oh, let's go after the reporter and look at some of the things that the reporter has written and tie into some of the things that they've written in the past. So I thought that was really, really helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, no, and connect with them. Oh, go ahead, Barb.
I was going to say one of the other things that all of you should do, and I put it in chat too, that Lupe and I do, is we follow reporters, certain reporters and journalists. They like to be called journalists now. Well, both journalists and reporters on Twitter. And I'm not a big Twitter person, but I follow them only because I want to see what they're reporting on, and I want to follow them and I want to engage them. Mm-hmm. Another reason why I follow them on Twitter is because a lot of us are not on Twitter, but they are. And so you're going to get recognized. And I get a lot of reporters that will heart what I say back to them. Because there's not a lot of people that are doing that. And so, so do that. Follow them on Twitter. Even if you're not that big on Twitter, you don't have to do the politics and all that crazy stuff that's happening there. Follow them and engage with them. Even if it's just a ha-ha, literally, LOL, follow them.
Yeah. And that's where also that service Quoted, the QWOTED, is a really good tracker for media on Twitter. And that's a feed that gets directly sent to your email. So then you know, hey, if I'm following XYZ reporter, okay, he just posted, let me go in and let me heart or interact or whatever it might be in that way. So that's just a good way to also do that. Awesome. Okay. And then Ms. Joni. Going once, twice. All right. How about Kathy? I'm going to go with the people that I see.
Yeah, so much great information. Thank you so much. There were a few things that really stuck out for me. The brain dump was huge. Like one other person, I think it was Joanne, said, the publications, following the reporters versus the publications, that was huge for me. And then I did a Google search on my topic and found a couple, trending things that I could continue to follow. So those are, 3 for 3 right now. And that was very helpful.
Fabulous. Awesome. Awesome. And last but not least, Ms. Tawani.
For me, it was just the importance of being proactive and reaching out. I think I have kind of been spoiled. I'm new to Denver, so I'm coming from Zambia, which is a smaller pool. So, reporters would get in touch with me. So I'm spoiled. Yeah. So I need to learn.
Well, you'll build that here soon enough, girl, too.
I need to work my way up back to that.
Yeah, and that's where it starts, right? With just kind of doing some of that following, like Barb's saying, or sending out those pitches. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to you touting your own horn and making sure people know, especially media, since they're the ones with the microphones that could just amplify what you do. And you've heard of so many success stories because one person lands on CNN or Oprah or whatever it might be, and then their life changes. Like their life changes in the idea of how many people they reach, the money that they make, the stature that they become. And it all starts either, with a media pitch that's either proactive or reactive. So it really comes down to that. So ladies, I highly encourage you to step in and take that challenge of sending out at least one media hit. Both Barb and I would love to stay in touch with you. If you do, what that turns out to be, if there's any additional questions I can help answer, please don't hesitate, but definitely leverage the workbook as a jumping off point to help you at least structure what you can send to media and start getting the ink that you very much deserve.